And God said, Behold, I have given you every herb-bearing seed. To you it shall be for food. Genesis 1:29. Man did eat angels' food. He sent them meat to the full. Psalm 78:25. Everyday Manna with Lisa.
Hi everybody, and welcome to Everyday Manna. Today we are going to be making a garlic herb Parmesan crusted chicken tender. It's going to be so easy. It's going to go in the oven, simple and absolutely delicious. To go alongside that, we're going to make a garden succotash and an orange glazed pound cake. We're going to get started with the chicken because obviously that takes the longest amount of time. You will want to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. You will also want to line a baking sheet. I like the non-stick foil. You could use parchment paper. You don't have to line it, it's for ease of cleanup because the Parmesan is going to melt in the oven and it makes it a whole lot easier. If you don't have non-stick foil, you can use regular aluminum foil. Just spray it with a non-stick cooking spray. Now, in this bowl, I have, about a cup and a half or so of just plain breadcrumbs. Don't use the seasoned kind because we're going to be seasoning these up. You could use panko, but in this case I'm just using the plain breadcrumbs, just simple. Some salt, some pepper. This is freshly ground. What I do sometimes is I have a spice grinder, just as a little coffee mill, and I'll grind up my peppercorns and just keep them that way, enough for a couple of days. And then in here I have some no salt garlic and herb spice blend. Now, if you use the kind that has salt, you will want to eliminate the salt that we put in. But this particular one is a no salt added. Now, you will want to grate in, and I am using fresh grated Parmesan or Reggiano cheese. I find it's easier just to have a little microplane. If you don't have one of these, a box grater will work. And I just grate it right into the bowl. You want about a fourth of a cup or so. This is my favorite cheese. I love Parmesan cheese. And there is a difference in the fresh and the pre-grated stuff. I personally don't care for the pre-grated. If you will read the ingredients, it is usually the dustings of the leftover when they cut Parmesan, a wheel. And then it has like cellulose and things like that, which in case you don't know is a wood pulp. It's food safe, but it's still a wood pulp. And I just don't think it melts as good. And you don't have to get the $20 a pound. This I just got from the grocery store, and this wedge was like $5. And I'm not going to use it all. So, we can wrap it up in some wrap and keep it in the refrigerator. I've got about, half a cup or so to start with. Keep that handy. We're going to stir this together. Now, in this bowl, I have just some half and half with a little bit of water. You could also beat up a couple of eggs, would be fine. Now, for this recipe, I'm using chicken tenders that I bought at the store, but you could use chicken thighs, boneless chicken thighs. You could even do this with chicken wings. I'm going to dip the chicken down in the half and half mixture, and I'm going to coat it in the breadcrumb mixture. Use your hands. Just make sure they're clean. Wash them afterwards. And then I'm just going to put it on my baking tray. This will bake in the oven, and it's absolutely delicious. I made this actually for my boys for dinner the other night, and they just went crazy over it. They loved it, as did I and Mike. It really just forms this delicious crust, and it's wonderful. We're just going to bread up our chicken tenders, place them on the baking sheet. And then before we put them in the oven, we're going to drizzle them with some olive oil. You could use canola oil if you wanted. I just, you know, olive oil's heart healthy, and I like to use it as much as I can because it is better for you. We all need to reduce our fats and increase the things that help our heart. And olive oil is really good for you. It's a heart healthy fat. So I'm just coating these up. These are great the next day as leftovers. You know, we're at that time where maybe you've got children in school. Well, the leftovers make a great lunch the next day because they're good room temperature even. Just put them in the lunchbox with a little cold pack. If your child has access to a microwave at school, they can microwave it for just a second. If not, it really is good, cooler room temperature. Okay, now I have my chicken coated. I'm just going to top it with a little bit of extra breadcrumb because that's got that cheese in it, remember? And then wash my hands. We're going to drizzle over just a small amount of olive oil, just a little bit. You could also use melted butter if you wanted to. I prefer the olive oil. I have mine in just a little squeezy, just a little bit, not a lot. The only reason to add this is because the chicken tenders, first of all, are very, very lean. But I want those breadcrumbs to brown. And that was probably all said and done, a tablespoon for all that chicken. Then we're going to put this in the middle of our preheated 350-degree oven. And they're going to bake for about 25 minutes, which is just the right amount of time to get our next dish started. I'm just going to clean this up. Keep your cheese out because we're going to do something else with that on those chicken tenders in just a few minutes. I'm going to clean this up, and when we come back, I'm going to get started on a garden succotash. I'll be back in just a minute. Alrighty, now our chicken is baking in the oven, and we're going to get started on our side dish, which is a garden succotash. I have a large non-stick skillet here that I've put just a couple of tablespoons of butter and some olive oil. And we're just going to use, now this is loosely based on a succotash dish, but we're going to just add all kinds of stuff to it. I have here 3 ears of garden fresh corn that I have taken the husk off. Now, if if I cut this on this board, it's just going to fly everywhere. You could use a bundt pan for this, or you could take a small bowl, turn it upside down in the bottom of a bigger bowl, and cut your corn, and it raises it above so you can get it, but it allows the corn kernels to just fall right into the bowl. Makes for easier cleanup. You could use frozen corn if you wanted to, but corn is in season right now, so I for sure want to use the fresh. I love corn on the cob. Make sure you turn it upside down and get that at the top. You might lose a few kernels, but not much. And then make sure you go down with the back of your knife and squeeze out that milk, the corn milk. I've got 3 ears because I love corn. And corn is very, very traditional. This is juicy corn too, in succotash, which I love because I love vegetables. If you've watched this program any length at all, you know that. I adore vegetables. I'm not a vegetarian. I do eat meat, but I tell you, I could easily be a vegetarian. I love vegetables and fruits. Come on, you. One more. We got all kinds of veggies. Now here is where you really could use your likes. Add whatever you like to this dish. Traditionally, succotash has corn, red bell pepper, and lima beans. But we're going to add some other stuff. I just love it. This is squirting everywhere. That's okay. That means it's going to be good. This is the bicolor corn, but you could use all white or yellow, either one. Now, my butter has melted. I've got my skillet on medium, and I'm going to add my corn to the pan. Let that go for just a minute. Then I'm going to use some zucchini, some onion, multiple colors of peppers, some tomatoes, and some lima beans. But I want to put the vegetables that take longer to cook in first. So I'm going to add the onion, and this particular onion, just so this knife is not good and sharp. I need to sharpen my knives. This is a Vidalia onion because they are 2 in season. But if you don't have a Vidalia, by all means just use a white onion, a yellow onion, a red onion, scallions. You could use whatever you wanted. And I'm going to chop it into, you know, smallish, probably 1/4 inch pieces. Just cut it across that way. And then across that way on a flat side. Makes it easier. Get out your little bench scraper. I love this tool. And then go ahead and put this into the skillet. I don't think anything smells better than onions cooking. Now, I have 1 jalapeno. Now here, if you are sensitive to heat, you could leave this out. If your hands are not used to working with hot peppers, make sure that you wear gloves. This is a little tool that I thought I would show you. This is a pepper stripper. And what you do is you can go, the heat, let me back up just a second. The heat of the peppers are in this membrane and the seeds. Well, this little tool just goes around and cuts those out. There you go, and then you can throw that away. Just a little handy little thing. And then if you don't, I didn't go down far enough, you can cut out that if you want to, or you can leave it. And then I want to cut these into small dice. Jalapenos, I don't think are that hot. Now, sometimes you can get them that are pretty warm, but most of the time I just don't, they're pleasant heat. Cut them into smallish pieces because you don't want someone to bite into a big hunk of a jalapeno. So cut them into mince them into a fine dice. Add that. It's going to be very pretty too. And then I just bought one of those little bags of these mixed peppers, and I'm just going to add, you know, a couple of each color. I just want them, I think they're pretty. And you by all means can use your little, I'll show you again, your little pepper stemmer tool. Go down in there, go around, and it just cuts, this is a serrated edge, and it just cuts those stems out, and you can just pull them out. Just a handy little tool. This one doesn't really have that many. But you can also cut it in half and use your knife. I just like to show you different things that I come across. And then just cut these. These are sweet, so they don't need to be minced as finely as the jalapeno. Now these are my harder vegetables. So I'm going to add these in. We're just going to let this saute for about 5 minutes. And then we're going to add some zucchini. and some tomatoes. And then we're going to add some limas. So let's go ahead and add those, stir this together. Look how pretty this is. You could make a sauce over in this, which we're going to add a little bit of a sauce. Serve that over pasta, and you've got a wonderful, wonderful dish. Now, I'm going to add some Roma tomatoes. I'm just going to have my little paring knife. I'm going to cut off the stem end. Let's see how much this chops up to be. I like the Roma in here, but you could use any kind of tomato you wanted. I'm going to go ahead and chop these and add them because I want them to kind of break down a little bit and make almost a juicy sauce. I like the Romas because they're more meaty, but by all means, if you have garden fresh tomatoes, you use your garden fresh tomatoes. I used to grow Romas because that happens to be my favorite kind of tomato. This will add some liquid and some flavor. I'm just going to let this simmer. I'm going to go ahead and chop up my zucchini, and when I come back, our chicken should about be done and our vegetables will be done. I'm just going to add this other tomato. Let me show you quickly. I've got 4 zucchini. I like the smaller ones if you can get them. I'm going to cut them in half and then cut them in little half moons. I'm just going to cut these up. I'm not going to add them right yet. When I come back, we're going to finish up this, make the glaze, and get the chicken, and we will eat. I'll be back in just a minute. Alrighty, now I just chopped up my zucchini, and I did add about a teaspoon of salt, a little bit of freshly ground black pepper to our garden succotash. I'm going to add the zucchini, and I'm also going to add about a cup of lima beans. You could use frozen or canned, either one. We're going to stir that together. Oh, that smells so good. And I'm going to add a little bit of half and half. If you have heavy cream, you could add heavy cream. That's just going to add some flavor, and it's also going to help make that sauce. Look how good that looks. Now, we're just going to let that simmer. See how the tomatoes are breaking down? That's exactly what we want. This is almost done. I'm going to let the zucchini go for a few minutes. Now, let's move on to our dessert. You can, if you want, bake a homemade pound cake, but I just bought one. This is a sour cream pound cake because that's what I really like. And in this bowl, I have some powdered sugar, and in this bowl, I have some orange juice, about, I don't know, maybe half a cup. I have a fresh orange. I'm going to zest my orange just into my juice. This will add just some extra flavor. The zest, oh, smells so good. The zest has a lot of flavor in it because it has all the oils. Oftentimes I find the zest has more flavor than the flesh of the orange or the lemon or the lime, whatever you're using. The zest of 1 orange, keep this because we're going to garnish with it. Now, I'm just going to add some powdered sugar to this, a little bit at a time, till I make like a little glaze. You can warm this if you want, or you can warm the cake if you want. I'm going to need a little more powdered sugar, I do believe. Let me get my powdered sugar. I keep mine in a Ziploc baggie here to keep it fresh. This is going to make a lot of glaze, but that's a lot of cake. About another cup ought to do it. Stir there we go, yeah. You just want a glaze. You don't want it too thin, but you certainly don't want it like frosting. You just want a little glaze here. Whisk it together. I wish you could smell that. Now, I'm going to take my orange and I'm going to turn my cutting board over because I did cut an onion on this. I washed it, but it still might have that flavor on there. I'm going to cut this. I'm also going to, this is going to take off that rind. This is the easiest way to get the rind off of an orange or a grapefruit or whatever citrus you're using. Turn it over and get any of that white, the bigger pieces of that white. That's the pith. And although I happen to like that, I am so strange. When I was a little girl, my mom would peel the orange for me and cut that white part out, and I would eat that. I love it. I still do that to this day. But an orange has these little membranes that section. We're just going to cut on either side of that and get out the individual little pieces. This is called supreming. And it's not necessary that you do this. You could just cut it into pieces. It's not even necessary that you add the orange. I just like to show the people that are going to be eating this cake that this is an orange glaze. So I try to always garnish something like this with what is actually in it, so it gives people an idea, especially if you're going to serve this on a buffet where maybe you're not going to be there to tell everybody, because this would make the perfect like baby shower or church supper dessert. Be careful, watch your hands. But the sections just fall away. This is also a great thing to do for little kids because sometimes that membrane can, cause a little choking if you're not careful. On that last one, I just lay it flat, and there you go. That's an easy way to supreme an orange. And all you're going to do, first of all, stir your succotash. You see how that heavy cream or the half and half has kind of reduced and made a little sauce? I'm just going to let that simmer for like 5 more minutes. We are just going to pour this over top of the cake. You can, if you want to, take a fork. Let me get a fork and poke some holes in here to let some of that glaze go down in there, or you could use a skewer. Whisk it and pour this over, just a little bit. Serve some on the side. Now some of that's going to go down in that pound cake through the holes. And that's it. And then of course, put your little orange slices on there. And that's a quick, easy orange glazed pound cake that you could use any flavor you wanted. I just love the flavor of orange. Alrighty, now everything is done, and I want to tell you, about 5 minutes before your chicken's done, if you want to, you can grate on some extra Parmesan cheese. It just adds this little extra layer of goodness. You can even turn your broiler on for a couple of minutes if you want, but these are absolutely scrumptious. So there's our chicken tenders done. That pan is very, very hot. Our garden succotash is finished. And here you go. Here it is all plated up. You could grate some cheese over that if you wanted to. And here is our delicious orange glazed pound cake. Again, if you wanted to bake your own pound cake, by all means you can do that. While it's warm, you could even put the glaze on there. Would be wonderful. But the chicken is absolutely delicious. And you could do this very same recipe and use some boneless cut up chunks of thigh meat if you wanted to, boneless chicken thigh, or you could do it on chicken wings and then just put them in the oven, and they're going to bake instead of being deep fried, but that garlic Parmesan crust is wonderful. Try these recipes on the Succotash. Add what you like. If you're serving it to someone who doesn't like heat, I suggest leaving out the jalapeno. I tasted that for seasoning and it's so good. That jalapeno just adds that little bit of kick. Thank you for joining with me. Try these recipes. Let me know what you think, and I will see you next time on Everyday Manna.
Thank you for watching Everyday Manna with Lisa. This program is made possible by viewers like you. Your support is continually needed to keep Christian programming on the air. Please send your best financial gift to Living Faith Television in care of Everyday Manna, P.O. Box 1867, Abingdon, Virginia 24212.